The meeting room fell silent as Commander Jack Reynolds entered. The stark white walls of the Galactic Council's chamber made him feel small, despite his impressive 6'2" frame. 20 pairs of alien eyes tracked his movement, none of them friendly. "Commander Reynolds, please take a seat," said Representative Orlin, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms carefully folded in front of him. His voice was smooth but cold. Jack sat down at the lone chair positioned in the center of the semicircle of council members. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. "You understand why you're here?" Orlin asked, his large eyes blinking slowly. "No, sir. My unit just returned from the Vega campaign. We were told to report immediately." Jack kept his back straight, his face neutral. 5 years of working with aliens had taught him to hide his emotions well. Orlin slid a document across the table. "The Galactic Council has passed Resolution 7729. Effective immediately, all human military personnel are to be removed from active combat roles in any conflict within Council space." Jack stared at the document, the words not making sense at first. "Removed? All humans? There must be some mistake." "There is no mistake, Commander," said another council member, a reptilian creature with scales that shimmered under the bright lights. The vote was unanimous. Jack felt his heart pound. "On what grounds?" "My troops just helped secure 3 systems from the Krell insurgency. We had the lowest casualty rates of any—" "The official reason," Orlin interrupted, "is humanitarian, concern for human losses in interstellar conflicts." "Humanitarian concern?" Jack couldn't keep the edge from his voice. "With all due respect, we never asked for your protection. Humans have been fighting our own wars for thousands of years." A murmur ran through the council members. Orlin raised a hand for silence. "The decision is final, Commander. You will oversee the immediate transfer of your command to Captain Draz of the Taurian 5th Division. Your human soldiers will be reassigned to non-combat roles or returned to Earth." Jack stood up suddenly, causing several council members to flinch. "This is outrageous. We've bled alongside your troops for 5 years. The Alliance Treaty specifically guarantees human participation in—" "The treaty has been amended," Orlin said flatly. "Earth's representatives have already signed the new terms. Without consulting any military leaders? Without even telling us?" Jack could feel his face growing hot. "That was their choice. This meeting is not a negotiation, Commander. It is to inform you of your new reality." 2 hours later, Jack stood at the viewpoint of Station Gamma 9, watching as Taurian troops boarded the transports that would take them to replace his unit. The Taurians were impressive physical specimens, 8 feet tall with gray leathery skin and enough muscle to tear a door from its hinges. But they lacked initiative, creativity, the very things that had made human forces so effective. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Jack turned to see Major Tom Wilson, his second-in-command, looking out at the ships. "They're really going through with it," Jack said. 5 years of combat experience just thrown away. Tom handed him a data tablet. "It's happening everywhere. Every human combat unit in Council space is being disbanded. Even the Special Forces. Teams embedded with the Arcturus fleet." Jack scrolled through the reports, his disbelief growing. "This makes no sense, Tom. We've been winning battles, saving lives. Why now?" "The official story stinks," Tom said, lowering his voice. "I've been talking to some of the other officers. There are rumors." "What kind of rumors?" Tom glanced around to make sure they were alone. "Something happened during the Battle of Proxima Centauri last year. The Council has classified all records, but a few alien officers who were there have been talking. They say they saw human soldiers doing impossible things." Jack frowned. "Impossible how?" "Don't know exactly, but one Alaran captain told his crewmate that humans are reality benders, whatever that means." Tom shrugged. "Probably just alien superstition." Before Jack could respond, his comm unit beeped. "Commander Reynolds, report to Docking Bay 7, immediately to begin the handover process." Jack sighed. "Duty calls. One last time." The next few days were a blur of paperwork, debriefings, and painful goodbyes. Jack watched as his unit, soldiers he had fought beside and led for years, were processed like cargo. their faces showing the same confusion and anger he felt. On the fourth day, as he was clearing out his office, the door slid open. Jack looked up, expecting to see another bureaucrat with more forms. Instead, a slender alien with pale, almost translucent skin stood in the doorway. Jack recognized the species of Vero, one of the oldest races in the council, known for their analytical minds and political neutrality. "Commander Reynolds?" the alien asked, its voice soft and melodic. "That's me. Though it's just Mr. Reynolds now, I suppose." The alien entered and closed the door behind it. "My name is Varric. I believe we have matters of mutual interest to discuss." Jack leaned back in his chair. "I doubt that. In 8 hours I'll be on a transport back to Earth with the rest of my kind." Varric's large silver eyes studied Jack carefully. "What if I told you that the reason for the human ban is not what the Council claims?" This caught Jack's attention. "I'm listening." "Not here." Varric handed Jack a small chip. "This contains coordinates and a time. If you wish to learn the truth about why the Council fears humans on the battlefield, meet me there. Come alone." Before Jack could ask more questions, Varric slipped out the door, leaving him holding the chip and filled with questions. That night, against his better judgment, Jack made his way to an abandoned maintenance section of the station. The corridors were dimly lit, and his footsteps echoed on the metal floor. At the end of a long hallway, he found Varric waiting. "You came," the alien said, sounding relieved. "I wasn't certain you would." "I want answers," Jack replied. "Why are humans being banned from fighting?" Varric gestured for Jack to follow him into a small room filled with old equipment. Once inside, he activated a device that hummed softly. "Privacy field," Varric explained. "What I'm about to tell you would cost me my life if the Council discovered I shared it." Jack crossed his arms. "I'm listening." "The Council doesn't fear for human lives, Commander. They fear human potential." Varric's silver eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. "During the Krell conflict, certain anomalies were observed in human combat performance, statistical impossibilities, outcomes that defied probability." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that humans do something on the battlefield that no other species can do. Something that frightens the oldest and most powerful members of the Council." Varric leaned closer. "And they've been hiding evidence of it for years." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "What exactly do we do?" "That's what my group is trying to discover. We are scientists, philosophers, and truth seekers from various worlds who question the Council's increasing control." Varric handed Jack another, larger data chip. "This contains encrypted communications between Council leaders. It's incomplete, but it mentions a special facility where they study captured human soldiers." Jack took the chip, his mind racing. "Why tell me this? Why now?" "Because the ban is just the beginning. There are whispers of more permanent solutions to the human problem." Varric's voice became urgent. "We need someone on the inside of human military circles. Someone with connections and respect. Someone like you." The station's warning system suddenly blared, making both of them jump. "Security sweep," Varric said, gathering his things quickly. "They've been increasing since the resolution passed. I must go." "Wait," Jack called as Varric headed for the door. "How do I contact you?" "Instructions are on the chip. Be careful who you trust, Commander." Varric paused at the doorway. "The Council isn't just afraid of what humans can do on the battlefield. They're afraid of what you might become if you ever discovered the truth about yourselves." With that cryptic warning, Varric disappeared into the shadows, leaving Jack alone with a data chip and a growing sense that the galaxy he thought he understood was built on lies. As Jack made his way back to his quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life and possibly the fate of humanity had just changed forever. 5 years had passed since the ban. 5 years since Commander Jack Reynolds had become simply Jack Reynolds, owner of Stellar Freight Solutions, a small but growing shipping company that moved cargo to the outer colonies. At least, that's what it said on the official papers. The reality was much different. "Coming up on the drop point in 3 minutes," called out Lisa from the pilot's seat of the unmarked transport ship. Once a lieutenant in Jack's old unit, she now served as his chief pilot and second in command. Jack nodded, checking his gear one last time. Any sign of patrol ships? Nothing on scanners. Looks like we got lucky. Jack smiled grimly. We make our own luck. The ship's hold contained 20 former human soldiers, all dressed in plain black combat suits with no markings. They were the best of the best, men and women who had refused to accept the Council's ban and had joined Jack's underground network. 2 minutes, Lisa announced. Everyone ready back there? Jack looked at the faces of his team. They weren't supposed to be. Here, no humans were. But the farming colony on Vega III had sent out desperate pleas for help after repeated raids by pirates. The Council forces had been delayed in responding, as they always seemed to be when human colonies were attacked. Remember, Jack said to his team, quick and clean. We hit the pirate base, free the hostages, and leave before any Council ships arrive. No traces. The team nodded. They had done this many times before. Dropping in 30 seconds, Lisa called. The ship descended through the atmosphere of the small moon where the pirates had made their base. As soon as they touched down, the rear doors opened, and the team moved out with practiced precision. Alpha team with me on the main entrance, Jack ordered through his comm. Beta team circle around to the back. Gamma, secure our exit. The pirate base was a converted mining facility, built into the side of a rocky cliff. Intelligence from the colonists suggested that the hostages, 15 farmers taken in the last raid, were being held in the lower levels. Jack's team moved silently toward the entrance. The pirates had posted only 2 guards who were quickly neutralized with stun weapons. No killing unless absolutely necessary. That was Jack's rule. They weren't assassins. They were soldiers. Main entrance secure, Jack reported, moving in. Inside, the base was dimly lit and smelled of fuel and unwashed bodies. Jack's team moved through the corridors, stunning the few pirates they encountered. Most were sleeping. The raid had been timed for the middle of the local night cycle. Beta team. Here, came Tom's voice over the comm. We've located the hostages. Lower level east section. Light guard presence. Copy that, Jack replied. We're heading your way. They descended deeper into the base, staying alert for any sign of alarm. So far, the operation was going smoothly, almost too smoothly. Jack, Lisa's voice came through his earpiece. I'm picking up some unusual energy readings from the central section of the base. Nothing in our intel mentioned any special equipment. Jack frowned. Can you identify it? Negative, but it's not standard pirate gear. This is high-end tech. Jack made a quick decision. Tom, proceed with freeing the hostages. I'll take 2 men and check out these energy readings. With Marcus and Rin, 2 of his most experienced operators, Jack made his way toward the central section of the base. They found a heavily reinforced door protected by a security system, far more advanced than anything pirates should have. This isn't right, Marcus muttered as he worked to bypass the lock. Pirates don't have access to military-grade security systems. Jack agreed. Something strange was going on here. After a tense minute, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, they found what looked like a research lab. Computer terminals lined the walls, and in the center was a strange device emitting a soft blue glow. What is this place? Rin whispered. Jack moved to one of the terminals. Let's find out. The computer was unlocked. Whoever had been using it hadn't expected anyone to get past the door. Jack quickly scrolled through the files, his expression growing darker with each passing second. These aren't pirates, he said finally. They're working for someone with serious resources. They've been collecting data on the colonists, specifically on how they perform under stress. Under stress? Marcus asked. Jack pointed to a video file playing on the screen. It showed a group of colonists fighting off raiders with farming tools. What should have been a massacre was instead a surprising victory for the outnumbered farmers. Look. At this, Jack said, pointing to data scrolling alongside the video. They're measuring probability shifts during combat. And look at the names of these files. The folder was labeled Human Anomaly Research, Phase 2. Jack, Lisa's voice cut in urgently over the comm. Council ships just appeared in orbit. They're not responding to hails. How did they find us? Rin asked. Jack's mind raced. This wasn't a pirate base at all. It's a research outpost disguised as one. He turned to his team. Download everything you can from these terminals. We need to know what they're doing here. While Marcus and Rin copied the data, Jack rejoined Tom's team, who had successfully freed the hostages. The colonists looked shaken but unharmed. We need to move now, Jack ordered. Council ships in orbit. They rushed back to their transport, the colonists in tow. As they approached the ship, Lisa was already warming up the engines. We've got 5 minutes before they can position their ships to cut off our escape route, she reported. Jack did a quick head count as everyone boarded. Let's not waste a second then. The transport lifted off, accelerating hard through the atmosphere. Behind them, landing craft were already descending toward the base. They're not pursuing, Lisa said, sounding surprised. Jack frowned. They're more interested in the base than in us. I want to know why. Once they were safely away, Jack examined the data they had stolen. Most of it was encrypted, but some files were accessible. What he found confirmed his worst suspicions. They're studying us, he told his inner circle later that night. The Council has been running experiments on human combat effectiveness for years. Tom leaned forward. What kind of experiments? Jack brought up one of the decrypted files. According to this, humans display statistically impossible success rates in combat situations, especially when outnumbered or fighting to protect others. We're good soldiers, Lisa said with a shrug. Nothing mysterious about that. It's more than that, Jack replied. Look at these numbers. In controlled scenarios, humans were consistently beating the odds. Not by small margins, but by factors that should be mathematically impossible. Rin, who had a background in physics before joining the military, studied the data. These readings, they're measuring quantum field fluctuations during combat. Why would they care about that? I don't know yet, Jack admitted. But I think it connects to what Varric told me 5 years ago, about humans doing something on the battlefield that scares the Council. A notification beeped on Jack's comm unit. Speaking of Varric, he murmured, reading the message. He wants to meet, says he has new information. Tom looked concerned. Could be a trap. The Council might know we raided their research facility. It's a risk we'll have to take, Jack decided. If we want answers, Varric is our best lead. The others left to tend to their various duties. Jack stared at the data scrolling across his screen. The patterns were clear, even if their meaning wasn't. Something happened when humans fought, something that defied normal probability. And the Galactic Council was willing to go to extraordinary lengths to understand it, or perhaps to hide it. Jack closed the files and sent a response to Varric. It was time to dig deeper into the mystery. Whatever the Council feared about humans on the battlefield, he was determined to find out what it was, before it was too late. The meeting point Varric had chosen was an abandoned mining station orbiting a dead moon. Once a bustling operation extracting valuable minerals, it now drifted empty and forgotten, the perfect place for a secret meeting. Jack's ship approached cautiously, sensors scanning for any sign of a trap. I'm not picking up any other vessels, Lisa reported from the pilot's seat. If Varric is here, he came alone. Jack nodded. Keep the engines hot. If anything feels wrong, be ready to leave immediately. What about you? Lisa asked, concern evident in her voice. I'll take my chances. Jack checked his sidearm. Tom and Marcus will back me up. The rest of you stay with the ship. The 3 men made their way through the airlock and into the silent station. Emergency lights cast long shadows down the empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floors. This place gives me the creeps, Marcus muttered. Jack didn't disagree. The station felt like a ghost, a remnant of a more prosperous time, before the Council had tightened its grip on human activities. They found Varric waiting in what had once been the station's control room. The pale alien stood near a viewpoint, gazing out at the stars. You're late. Varric said without turning around. Security precautions, Jack replied. You understand? Varric turned, his silver eyes reflecting the dim light. Indeed. Caution has kept me alive these past 5 years. He motioned to a data terminal. I have something to show you. Jack approached but maintained a safe distance. What is it? Coordinates, Varric said, to a place the Council doesn't want you to find. A secure archive on Centauri Prime containing records from the Earth-Draconian War. Jack frowned. That war ended 20 years ago. What does it have to do with the human ban? Everything. Varric's eyes narrowed. It was during that conflict that the Council first noticed the anomalies in human combat performance. The archive contains the original footage and data that led to your species being classified as a potential threat. And you want us to break into this archive? Tom asked incredulously. Centauri Prime is the most heavily guarded Council world. Yes, Varric replied simply. My contacts can provide security codes and a narrow window of opportunity during the upcoming Galactic Summit. Most of the Council's attention will be focused on protecting the delegates. Jack studied the alien's face. Why are you helping us? What do you get out of this? Varric was silent for a moment. The Council is changing, he said finally. Moving toward greater control, less freedom. Some of us believe that the truth, whatever it is, should not be buried. Jack considered his options. Breaking into a Council archive was far more dangerous than their usual operations. If caught, they wouldn't simply be imprisoned, they would disappear as other human resistance fighters had over the years. But the answers they sought might be worth the risk. We'll need detailed plans of the facility, Jack said at last. Security. Quotations, sensor placements, everything. Varric nodded. I'll provide what I can. The rest will be up to you. He handed Jack a small device. This contains the initial information. My contact will reach out with the rest when the time is right. As they returned to their ship, Tom voiced his concerns. This could be a setup, Jack. We'd be walking right into the heart of Council territory. I know, Jack admitted. But we need answers. Real ones, not just theories and rumors. Back on their base, a converted asteroid in a remote system, Jack gathered his most trusted team members. Lisa, Tom, Marcus, Rin, and Alex, a former tech specialist with a talent for slicing security systems. This mission is strictly volunteer, Jack emphasized as he outlined Varric's information. Anyone who wants to sit this one out can do so without judgment. No one moved. We're all in, Lisa said, speaking for the group. Whatever the Council is hiding, we deserve to know. The next 3 weeks were spent in intensive preparation. Alex worked day and night to create countermeasures for the archive's security systems. Rin studied the building plans, identifying the best entry and exit points. Tom and Marcus trained for every possible combat scenario. When the day finally arrived, Jack felt a mix of anticipation and dread. This mission could provide the answers they had sought for years, or it could be the end of everything they had built. Their ship approached Centauri Prime under the guise of a supply vessel. Varric's codes worked, getting them through the outer security perimeter without issue. So far, so good, Lisa murmured as she guided the ship toward a secondary spaceport near the archive. Jack, Tom, Marcus, and Alex prepared to disembark, dressed in maintenance worker uniforms. Rin and Lisa would remain with the ship, ready for a quick extraction. Remember, Jack said, we get in, access the files, and get out. No heroics, no detours. The 4 men moved through the spaceport without incident, their forged credentials passing inspection. From there, they followed the route Rin had mapped out, using service tunnels and maintenance corridors to avoid the main thoroughfares. The archive building loomed ahead, a sleek structure of glass and metal. During normal hours, it would be filled with researchers and officials. But now, with the summit drawing most personnel away, it stood nearly empty. Security patrol, Marcus warned, pulling the team into a shadowy alcove as 2 guards passed by. Alex checked his scanner. We have a 15-minute window before the next patrol. Let's move. They reached the archive's service entrance, where Alex went to work on the security panel. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he bypassed one system after another. "Almost there," he whispered. "Just one more." The door slid open with a soft hiss. "We're in," Jack said. "Alex, find a terminal. The rest of us will stand guard." The interior of the archive was cool and silent. Row upon row of data storage units filled the vast room, each containing thousands of records from across the galaxy. Alex quickly located a terminal and connected his decryption device. "Section 47B, he muttered, following Varick's instructions. "Earth Draconian War, classified records." Minutes ticked by as Alex worked. Jack kept checking his timepiece, knowing their window of opportunity was shrinking. "Got it," Alex suddenly exclaimed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Downloading now." Jack moved to the terminal, watching as the files transferred. Most were encrypted, but some preview images were visible, battle footage from the front lines of the war. One video began to play automatically. It showed a human platoon surrounded by Draconian forces, outnumbered at least 5-1. What should have been a massacre turned into something else entirely. As Jack watched, the human soldiers moved with impossible speed and precision. Shots that should have missed found their targets. Enemies that should have flanked them stumbled or fired wide. And most incredibly, a grenade that landed in the middle of the human position simply didn't explode. "What am I seeing?" Jack whispered. Alex pointed to data scrolling alongside the video. "Look at these readings. Quantum fluctuations off the charts. It's like reality itself bent around them." More videos played, showing similar scenarios. In each one, human soldiers achieved victories that defied all probability. And in each one, strange energy readings spiked during the most critical moments. "Download complete," Alex reported. "Time to go," Tom urged. "We've been here too long, already." They made their way back toward the exit, minds reeling from what they had seen. Just as they reached the door, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. "That's not for us," Marcus said, checking his scanner. "Something's happening at the main entrance." "Whatever it is, it's a distraction we can use," Jack decided. "Move out now." They slipped back through the service corridors, using the confusion to mask their escape. When they finally reached the ship, Lisa already had the engines running. "What happened?" she asked as they boarded. "The comms are going crazy with security alerts." "Not our concern," Jack replied. "Get us out of here, fast and quiet." As the ship broke orbit and jumped to safety, Jack gathered everyone in the main cabin. "Did you find what we were looking for?" Rin asked. Jack nodded slowly. "I think we found much more than that." He turned to Alex. "Show them." Alex connected his device to the ship's display. The videos played again, showing human soldiers performing impossible feats on the battlefield. "According to the data," Jack explained, "humans emit some kind of energy during combat, especially when under extreme stress. The Council scientists called it probability manipulation." "Probability manipulation?" Lisa repeated skeptically. "What does that even mean?" Jack took a deep breath. "It means that somehow, when humans fight, especially when fighting together, we bend the rules of reality itself." The cabin fell silent as the implications sank in. "The Council didn't ban us to protect us," Marcus said slowly. "They banned us because they're afraid of us. And now," Jack added, "we know why." The journey back to their hidden base was tense and quiet. Each person on Jack's ship was lost in their own thoughts, trying to process what they had discovered in the Council archives. Jack sat alone in his quarters, watching the battle footage for the 5th time. The evidence was right in front of him, yet he still struggled to believe it. Humans altering probability, bending reality. It sounded impossible. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Rin entered, her face serious. "Alex finished analyzing the data we stole. You need to see this." In the ship's common area, the team had gathered around a large display. Alex stood nearby, his expression grim. "What did you find?" Jack asked. Alex pulled up a series of documents on the screen. "These are classified council reports dating back 20 years. They detail something called the Human Anomaly Project." "What kind of project?" Tom asked. "A research initiative," Alex explained. "After the Earth-Draconian War, the Council began studying human combat performance in secret. They discovered that humans emit a unique energy signature during battle, especially in high-stress situations. The quantum fluctuations we saw in the footage," Jack said. Alex nodded. "Exactly, but it gets more interesting." He brought up another document. "According to their scientists, this energy doesn't just affect the humans producing it. It creates what they call probability fields that can influence everything around them." "In simple terms?" Lisa asked. "In simple terms," Alex replied. "When humans fight, especially in groups, they unconsciously shift probability in their favor. Bullets miss that should hit. Explosions happen at just the right moment. Enemy soldiers make unusual mistakes." Marcus shook his head in disbelief. "That's not possible. We're not magic." "Not magic," Rin interjected. "Quantum physics. On the smallest levels, reality isn't fixed. Particles exist in multiple states until observed. What if humans somehow influence which state becomes real?" Jack frowned. "Even if that's true, why ban us? Why not use this ability?" "Because of this," Alex said, pulling up another file. "The effect grows stronger when more humans fight together. During the Earth-Draconian War, large human forces created massive probability storms that had unpredictable effects. Some were beneficial, but others were problematic." The screen showed footage of a battlefield where reality itself seemed to waver. Trees grew and died in seconds. Equipment melted without heat. In one disturbing clip, a draconian soldier seemed to phase in and out of existence. The Council feared what might happen if humans learned to control this ability consciously. Alex continued. "So they banned us from combat, scattered our military units, and began experimenting on captured soldiers." "Experimenting?" Jack's voice hardened. "What kind of experiments?" Alex hesitated. "The kind designed to see if humans could be taught to control these probability fields." Lisa leaned forward suddenly. "Wait. Bring up that list of test subjects again." Alex complied, and Lisa pointed to a name near the bottom. "Maya Torres. She was in our unit. Reported missing in action 5 years ago during the withdrawal." Jack felt cold. "She's alive? They've been experimenting on her all this time?" "According to this," Alex said grimly, "she's not just alive. She's the first human to show signs of conscious control over probability manipulation." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Where are they keeping her?" Jack finally asked. Alex pulled up one last file. "Facility X-37. It's a black site on the moon of Rigel 4. Officially, it doesn't exist." Jack stood up, his decision made. "We're going to get her out." "Jack," Tom said carefully, "that's a Council black site. We can't just—" "We can and we will," Jack cut him off. "They've been experimenting on our people. They've been lying to the entire galaxy. And Maya—" His voice softened. "Maya was one of us. We don't leave our people behind." The team exchanged looks. They all knew the risks, but no one voiced any further objections. "How do we get into a place that doesn't exist?" Marcus asked. Jack turned to the screen, studying the limited information they had on Facility X-37. "We'll need help, and I know just who to ask." 3 days later, Jack stood in another abandoned station waiting. This time he had come alone despite his team's objections. Varric arrived exactly on time, gliding into the room with his usual grace. "You took an incredible risk at the archives," the alien said without preamble. "The Council is in an uproar." "Good," Jack replied. "They should be. They've been experimenting on my people." Varric's silver eyes widened slightly. "You found out about the program." "Not just the program. We know about Maya Torres, and we know where she's being held." Varric was silent for a moment. You're planning a rescue. It wasn't a question, but Jack nodded anyway. We need your help. Security protocols, guard rotations, anything you can give us on Facility X-37. What you're proposing is suicide, Varric said quietly. That facility has more security than any council building. Even if you somehow got inside, you would never get out again. Jack stepped closer to the alien. You've been helping us for 5 years, Varric. Why? What's your stake in all this? Varric turned away, looking out at the stars. The council has existed for millennia. It was meant to bring peace and cooperation to the galaxy. But power corrupts, Commander Reynolds, and those who have held power longest are the most corrupted of all. You didn't answer my question. Varric faced him again. My species was once like yours. Proud, independent, with abilities that frightened the older races. We were contained, controlled. Our unique traits bred out of us over generations. His voice took on a bitter edge. Now we serve as perfect bureaucrats, efficient, compliant, empty. Jack felt a chill. They want to do the same to us. Yes, the difference is, you humans might be strong enough to resist. Varric produced a small data cube and handed it to Jack. Everything I have on Facility X-37, it's not much, but perhaps it will help. Jack took the cube. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Varric warned. What I haven't told you is that the Council has accelerated their plans. They're preparing to announce a new health initiative for human colonies. What kind of initiative? Mandatory genetic screening for all children, followed by treatments to correct dangerous mutations. Varric's eyes held Jack's. They plan to eliminate your ability from future generations, quietly, permanently. Jack's hand tightened around the data cube. How long do we have? The announcement will come after the current galactic summit ends. 2 weeks, perhaps less. Jack nodded grimly. Then we have 2 weeks to expose the truth. As he turned to leave, Varric called after him. Commander Reynolds, there's one more thing you should know about Lieutenant Torres. Jack paused. The reports indicate her abilities have progressed far beyond anything the Council expected. They fear her now. Varric's voice dropped to a whisper. And perhaps they should. Back at their base, Jack shared everything with his team. The news of the Council's genetic plan shocked them all into silence. This isn't just about us anymore, Lisa said finally. It's about the future of our entire species. Jack nodded. We have 2 objectives now. Rescue Maya and expose the Council's lies to the galaxy. How? Marcus asked. Even if we rescue Maya, who would believe us? The Council controls all major communication channels. Not all of them, Alex interjected. During the summit, representatives from every world will be connected to the galactic network. If we could access that network, we could broadcast the truth to everyone at once, Jack finished. The Council wouldn't be able to hide it. Tom looked at the limited information they had on Facility X-37. We'd need a miracle to pull this off. Jack smiled for the first time in days. Not a miracle, just a bit of probability manipulation. He pulled up the image of Maya Torres, a strong-faced woman with determined eyes. As he stared at her picture, Jack felt a surge of resolve. The Council banned humans from the battlefield because they feared what we could do, he said quietly. It's time to show them they were right to be afraid. Facility X-37 hung in the shadow of Rigel IV's largest moon, its dark metal surface absorbing light rather than reflecting it. From a distance, it was nearly invisible against the blackness of space, exactly as its creators intended. Inside his ship, positioned behind a small asteroid at the edge of sensor range, Jack looked at the faces of his team. 20 former soldiers, the best humanity had to offer, all volunteers for what might be a suicide mission. Final equipment check, he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. We launch in 15 minutes. As the others prepared, Lisa approached him privately. Are you sure about this plan? She asked quietly. It seems impossible. Jack finished with a grim smile. That's what we're counting on. The plan was indeed audacious. Using Varick's information, they had identified a small maintenance airlock that received less security attention than the main docking bays. They would approach in a stolen Council maintenance vessel, using codes that Alex had extracted from the stolen data. Once inside, they would split into 3 teams. One to find and free Maya, one to access the facility's communication array, and one to create a diversion. But the most controversial part of the plan came next. Remember, Jack addressed the entire Team 1 last time. Once we're inside, I want everyone to focus on what we learned. We're not just soldiers anymore. We're probability manipulators. Believe it. Feel it. Concentrate on making the impossible possible. Some of the faces looking back at him showed doubt, but others displayed fierce determination. If what they had discovered was true, their belief itself might be a weapon. Even if this ability is real, Tom had argued during planning, we don't know how to control it. Maybe not consciously, Jack had replied. But now that we know it exists, we can try to amplify it. 20 humans, all focusing their probability fields with a single purpose. It was a shot in the dark, but it was all they had. Launch time, Lisa announced, moving to the pilot's seat. Ready or not? The stolen maintenance vessel detached from their ship and began its approach to the facility. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as they drew closer to the massive structure. Incoming transmission, Alex reported. They're asking for identification. Send the codes, Jack ordered. They all held their breath as the codes were transmitted. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Codes accepted, Alex finally said, disbelief in his voice. They're giving us clearance to dock. Jack nodded. Remember, stay focused. Believe in what we can do. As their ship docked with the small maintenance airlock, Jack couldn't help wondering if their success was already evidence of their abilities working. The odds of stolen codes still functioning should have been minimal. Once inside, they moved, quickly. The interior of the facility was sterile and cold, all metal and harsh lighting. According to Varick's information, Maya would be held in the research wing, 5 levels down. Alpha team with me to find Maya, Jack ordered. Beta team, secure the communications array. Gamma team, you know what to do. Marcus, leading Gamma team, nodded grimly. Their job was to create chaos, to draw attention away from the other teams while simultaneously testing their ability to manipulate probability in combat. As they separated, Jack led Alpha team through the corridors, consulting the rough map Varick had provided. They encountered few personnel, mostly researchers who quickly surrendered when confronted with armed intruders. Remember, no killing, unless absolutely necessary, Jack reminded his team, as they secured each person they encountered. 2 levels down, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. Gamma team has started their diversion, Tom observed. Jack nodded. Let's pick up the pace. They moved faster, no longer trying to stay hidden. As they rounded a corner, they encountered their first real resistance, a squad of security officers, armed with stun weapons. Focus! Jack shouted to his team as the officers opened fire. Believe! What happened next defied explanation. The stun blast that should have hit them instead impacted the walls around them. One officer's weapon malfunctioned completely. Another tripped over seemingly nothing. Within seconds, all the officers were unconscious or subdued. Did we just? One of Jack's team members asked, staring at his hands in wonder. Keep moving, Jack ordered, though he too felt a strange sensation, a tingling energy that seemed to flow through his body. When they finally reached the research level, they found it largely abandoned. The scientists had fled when the alarms sounded. Maya should be in cell block C, Jack said, consulting the map. This way. Cell block C was a long corridor with reinforced doors on either side. Each door had a small window and a complex electronic lock. Alex, get these doors open, Jack ordered as they reached the block. While Alex worked on the locks, Jack peered through the windows. Most cells were empty, but in the third one, he saw a familiar face. Maya Torres sat cross-legged on a simple bed, her eyes closed as if meditating. She looked thinner than Jack remembered, her once short hair now hanging past her shoulders. But there was something else different about her, an aura of calm purpose that hadn't been there before. Got it, Alex exclaimed as the locks disengaged. With a soft click, Jack opened Maya's door slowly. "Lieutenant Torres?" Her eyes opened, revealing not surprise but rather a quiet satisfaction. "Commander Reynolds, right on time." Jack blinked. "You knew we were coming?" "I saw it," she said simply, standing up. "Just as I've seen many things since they started their experiments." Before Jack could respond, his comm unit crackled. "Jack, it's Lisa. Beta team has reached the communications array. We're ready to broadcast, but security is closing in. We need that diversion to be bigger." "Copy that," Jack replied. He turned to Maya. "We need to get you out of here, and we need to tell the galaxy what the Council has been doing." Maya smiled, and there was something unsettling about it, a confidence that bordered on the supernatural. "I can help with both," she said. "But first, you need to understand what I've become." She held out her hand, palm up. Above it, small motes of light appeared, swirling in complex patterns. "The Council wanted to know if humans could control probability consciously," she explained. "They got their answer. But I've gone beyond what they intended. I don't just bend probability, Commander. I can see all possible futures stretching before us, and I can choose which ones become real." Jack stared at the lights dancing above her palm. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that the Council was right to fear us, not because we're dangerous, but because we represent the next step in evolution." She closed her hand, extinguishing the lights. "And they're not ready for that." An explosion rocked the facility, nearly knocking them off their feet. "Gamma Team is putting on quite a show," Tom remarked. "That wasn't Gamma Team," Maya said calmly. "That was me, reaching out to the other human prisoners here. They're awakening to their abilities now." Jack's comm crackled again. "Jack, something strange is happening," Lisa reported. "The security forces, they're retreating, and we've got full access to the communications array now. It's like the systems just reconfigured themselves to give us access." Jack looked at Maya, who nodded slightly. "Broadcast everything," he ordered Lisa. "The archive footage, the research data, everything." They made their way back through the facility, meeting surprisingly little resistance. When they did encounter guards, Maya would simply look at them and they would turn and run, terror in their eyes. "What did you do to them?" Jack asked after the third such encounter. "I showed them what they fear most," Maya replied. "The knowledge that they're not in control." When they finally reached the communications array, they found Lisa and her team watching as their message spread across the galaxy. On every screen, the truth was playing out. The Council's experiments, the suppression of human potential, the plan to genetically engineer away their abilities. "It's done," Lisa said. "Every world, every colony, every ship with a receiver is getting this." Jack felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "Then it's time to go home." As they made their way back to their ship, Jack confronted the question that had been bothering him. "Maya, what happens now? What does this mean for humanity?" Maya was silent for a moment. "The Council banned humans from the battlefield because they feared what we might become. Now they know exactly what they created by trying to control us." Looked around at the human soldiers, her eyes meeting each of theirs in turn. "We're not just warriors anymore," she said. "We're something new, and the galaxy will never be the same." As their ship pulled away from Facility X-37, Jack watched as lights flickered across its surface. Alarms could be heard even through the comms systems failed and security protocols collapsed. "Is that your doing?" he asked Maya, who stood beside him on the bridge. She smiled. "No. That's all of us together. 20 humans, focused on a single goal. Imagine what 1,000 could, Dukar, or 1,000,000. Jack looked out at the stars, thinking about the future that awaited them. A future where humanity would no longer be banned from the battlefield, because the entire galaxy had become their battlefield. "The Council wanted to contain us," Maya said, reading his thoughts. "Instead, they showed us who we really are." Jack nodded, understanding at last. There was indeed a reason humans were banned from the battlefield, and now, everyone knew why. The massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a silver cloud. It was 10 times bigger than the largest human space station. On the bridge of this ship, Admiral Drek of the United Galactic Council stared at the blue planet below. He had seen many worlds, but this one seemed different. "Primitive weapons systems," said his second-in-command, Officer Tull. "Their space technology is basic. They barely reached their own moon 50 years ago." Drek nodded. "Make contact with their leaders." Within hours, the news spread across Earth. Aliens were real. They came in peace. They wanted to welcome humans to the galactic community. In the White House, President Bell watched the alien transmission with wide eyes. The Joint Chiefs of Staff stood behind her, faces tight with worry. "They say there are over 200 species in their council," said General Adams. "Some have been in space for thousands of years." The president leaned forward. "And now they found us." Over the next few weeks, humans learned about the galaxy. They learned about faster-than-light travel, about planet-sized cities, about wars that spanned star systems. They learned they were very, very small in a very, very big universe. But they also learned something else. The aliens were impressed by humans. "Your adaptability is remarkable," Admiral Drek told President Bell during their first meeting. "Most species take hundreds of years to advance from steam power to spaceflight. You did it in less than 2 centuries. The president smiled. "We're quick learners." Admiral Drek didn't smile back. "That makes some council members nervous." 6 months after first contact, Earth joined the United Galactic Council as a junior member. Human diplomats traveled to alien worlds. Alien traders came to Earth. Technology was shared carefully and slowly. The galaxy opened up to humanity. Then came the problem with the Vorn Empire. The Vorn were not part of the Council. They were conquerors, a lizard-like species with scales that shimmered like oil on water. They controlled 30 star systems at the edge of Council space, and they wanted more. "The mining rights to the Centauri system belong to Earth," said Ambassador Jones in the Council meeting. "We established outposts there before we even met the Council." The Vorn ambassador, a tall figure with a hood that hid most of his face, hissed softly. "The Centauri system lies within Vorn space. Your presence there is illegal." "That's not true," Jones said. "The Council's own star charts show." "The Council does not dictate to the Vorn Empire," the alien cut in. "We take what is ours." That night, Vorn ships attacked the human mining colony in Alpha Centauri. 200 people died. Emergency meetings filled the next 3 days. The Council urged caution. The Vorn Empire was powerful, with thousands of warships. Earth had fewer than 50 ships that could even leave the solar system. "We cannot start a war," said the Mintak representative, a jellyfish-like being that floated in a tank of green liquid. "The Vorn would crush Earth." Admiral Drek looked at the human ambassador with something like pity. "Perhaps you could offer compensation for the mining rights?" Ambassador Jones stood up. "Earth does not respond to threats." In the Pentagon War Room, President Bell met with her military leaders. Screens showed the Vorn fleet, massive ships with weapons Earth scientists couldn't even understand. "They have us outgunned in every way," said Admiral Wilson. "Their smallest destroyer could take out our entire fleet." "So what do we do?" asked the president. "Surrender our rights? Let them kill our people without answering?" General Lee stepped forward. "Ma'am, we have a plan. It's unusual." "I'm listening." "We send 3 ships." The room went silent. "3 ships?" the president repeated. "Against their entire fleet?" "Not just any ships," said Lee. "The Defiant, the Innovation, and the Unity." The president knew these names. They were Earth's newest vessels, built with some alien technology, but mostly human ingenuity. They were good ships, but only 3. "This is suicide," said the Secretary of Defense. "No," General Lee said firmly. "It's strategy." 2 days later, the president addressed the United Galactic Council. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. The Vorn ambassador stood to one side, his hooded face impossible to read. "The Vorn Empire has attacked Earth citizens without provocation," President Bell said. "They have killed innocent people. They have claimed territory that is not theirs. She paused. Earth will respond. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Mintak representative's tentacles waved frantically. Please reconsider. The Vorn fleet will destroy your world. The Vorn ambassador made a sound like laughter. Listen to the council, human. Your species is young. You do not understand the power you face. President Bell looked directly at the hooded figure. We understand power very well. Earth will dispatch 3 warships to protect our interests in the Centauri system. Silence fell. Then came whispers, confusion. 3 ships? Admiral Drek asked. That is your response? Yes, said the president. Just 3. The Vorn ambassador's laughter filled the chamber. Humans are more foolish than we thought. 3 ships? We will destroy them in minutes. President Bell didn't respond to the taunt. She simply turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving confusion in her wake. On the edge of the solar system, 3 ships prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. The UES Defiant, commanded by Captain James Miller. The UES Innovation with Chief Engineer Lisa Reed. The UES Unity under Commander Thomas Wilson. Just 3 ships against an empire. The galaxy watched and wondered. Why would humans send just 3 ships to war? They would soon find out. Captain James Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the stars streak by as the ship moved through hyperspace. At 45, Miller had spent most of his life in Earth's Navy before moving to Space Command. His hair was going gray at the temples, and the lines around his eyes showed years of hard decisions. Sir, we'll reach the Centauri system in 10 minutes, said his navigation officer. Miller nodded. Bring us out of hyperspace behind the 3rd moon of Centauri B. We need to see what we're dealing with before they see us. On the main screen, the ship's scanners showed 12 Vorn warships orbiting the human mining colony. The alien vessels were massive, covered in weapons that could tear through most human ships like paper. Quite a welcoming party, Miller said quietly. He tapped his communication panel. Reed, Wilson, are you receiving our scan data? Crystal clear, came Lisa Reed's voice from the Innovation. These Vorn ships are even bigger than the report suggested. 7 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and 2 command ships, said Commander Wilson from the Unity. They really want this mining colony. Miller smiled slightly. Good. That means they'll be overconfident. Throughout human history, Miller had studied warfare. He had read Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, and books about every major battle on Earth. One lesson stood out. Never fight the battle your enemy expects. Begin. Phase 1, Miller ordered. The Defiant emerged from behind the moon, alone and visible to all Vorn scanners. The ship moved slowly toward the alien fleet, making no attempt to hide. On the largest Vorn ship, Commander Varsk watched the human vessel approach. His scaled face showed confusion then amusement. They sent 1 ship, he said to his officers. 1 small human ship against our fleet? Perhaps it is a diplomatic vessel, suggested his second-in-command. Varsk flicked his tongue, a gesture of dismissal. No. The humans said they would send warships. This must be their idea of war. He laughed, a harsh sound. Let us educate them on real warfare. Target their engines. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. The Council will see how quickly. The humans surrender when faced with true power. 5 Vorn destroyers moved to surround the Defiant. On Miller's bridge, warning lights flashed. They're targeting us, Captain, reported the tactical officer. Good, said Miller calmly. Now let's show them something they've never seen before. Activate stealth systems. The Defiant's hull, which looked like standard metal to Vorn scanners, suddenly changed. Tiny panels shifted, revealing a surface that absorbed energy rather than reflecting it. At the same time, the ship's heat signature vanished. On the Vorn command ship, alarm sounded. We've lost them, shouted a scanner officer. The human ship just disappeared. Impossible, Varsk hissed. Nothing can hide from Vorn scanners. Find them. But the Defiant was truly invisible. Humans had been working on this technology since long before they met aliens. They called it the Ghost System. It didn't make the ship truly invisible. It just made it extremely hard to detect with any known scanner technology. Miller's voice was steady as he gave orders. Position us behind the smallest destroyer. Prepare micro-torpedoes. The Defiant silently moved into position. The Vorn ships were still searching, firing randomly into space, hoping to hit the vanished human vessel. Fire, Miller said. 2 small torpedoes shot from the Defiant. They weren't aimed at the Vorn ship's main hull, but at a specific point where the ship's engine connected to its power core. A weakness Miller's team had identified from studying Vorn ship designs in Council records. The explosion wasn't large, but it didn't need to be. The Vorn destroyer's engines failed and it began to drift. 1 down, Miller said. Move to the next target. For the next 20 minutes, the Defiant struck from nowhere, disabling Vorn ships one by one. They never fired at the same spot twice. Sometimes they targeted engines, sometimes weapon systems, sometimes communication arrays. Varsk's anger turned to fear as his fleet fell into chaos. 4 ships disabled, then 5, then 6, all without even seeing their attacker. This is impossible, he shouted. No species has this technology. That's when the second human ship appeared. The UES Innovation dropped out of hyperspace directly above the Vorn fleet. Unlike the Defiant, it didn't try to hide. Instead, it unleashed a barrage of unusual projectiles. They weren't explosive warheads but looked like small metallic spheres. The spheres attached to the hulls of 3 Vorn ships. Seconds later, the ship's weapon systems shut down completely. Some kind of electronic warfare, gasped Varsk's technology. Officer. It's overriding our control systems. Varsk slammed his fist on his command chair. Call for reinforcements now. As his communication officer tried to send the message, a 3rd human ship appeared. The UES Unity positioned itself just outside weapons range and broadcast a powerful signal that jammed all Vorn communications. In less than an hour, without firing a single shot that could destroy a Vorn ship, the 3 human vessels had neutralized the entire Vorn fleet. Miller opened a channel to the Vorn command ship. This is Captain James Miller of Earth. Your ships are disabled. Your communications are blocked. You are not destroyed because we chose not to destroy you. Consider this a demonstration. Varsk's voice shook with rage when he responded. This trickery will not save you. The Vorn Empire has thousands of ships. We will return with hundreds and burn your colony to ash. You're welcome to try, Miller replied calmly. But first, I suggest you report to your leaders what happened here, today. Tell them that 3 human ships defeated 12 of yours without suffering a single casualty. After ensuring the mining colony was secure, the 3 Earth ships prepared to return home. Before they left, Miller sent one final message to the disabled Vorn fleet. You asked why humans would send just 3 ships to war, he said. Now you begin to understand. As the Defiant jumped back to hyperspace, Miller knew this was just the beginning. The Vorn would return with a bigger fleet. But now they would be cautious, uncertain. They would have questions about human capabilities, human tactics, human technology. And that uncertainty was exactly what Miller had wanted to create. The Vorn had expected an easy victory. Instead, they got a mystery. And in war, Miller knew, mysteries were often more powerful than missiles. Chief Engineer Lisa Reed wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked deep in the engine room of the UES Innovation. At 36, she was the youngest chief engineer in Earth's fleet, known for her ability to make machines do things they weren't supposed to do. Hand me that plasma wrench, she said to her assistant. The Innovation's engine room looked nothing like what aliens might expect. While most galactic ships had clean, streamlined engine cores, this room was a maze of added components, modified systems, and technology that should not work together, but somehow did. Captain Miller's message just came through, her assistant said, passing her the tool. The Vorn are sending reinforcements, a lot of them. Reed nodded, not looking up from her work. How many ships? 50. Now she looked up. 50? Well, that's a compliment, I guess. Sending 50 ships against our 3. She patted the engine housing beside her. Good thing we've got a few surprises left. 3 days had passed since the first battle at Centauri, As Miller had predicted, the Vorn were angry and determined to crush the humans completely. What the Vorn didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment long before they met any aliens. 60 years ago, a strange object had crashed in the New Mexico desert. The world's governments had kept it secret, but that object contained technology beyond human understanding. For decades, scientists had studied it, learned from it, and slowly integrated some of its principles into human technology. When the United Galactic Council found Earth, humans pretended to be more primitive than they were. They showed the Council their official space program but kept their advanced research hidden. Reed had been part of that research since she was a graduate student. "All ships, prepare for Vorn arrival," came Captain Miller's voice over the communication system. "They'll be here in 20 minutes. Reed pulled herself from under the engine housing. "Time to get to the bridge," she told her team. "Phase 2 begins now." On the bridge of the Innovation, Captain Robert Davis waited for his chief engineer. Unlike the military-focused Defiant or the communication-specialized Unity, the Innovation was essentially a floating laboratory disguised as a warship. "Cutting it close, Chief," he said as Reed arrived. "Had to finish the modifications to the pulse drive," she replied, taking her station. "Gave us another 20% power capacity." Davis raised an eyebrow. "The aliens say that's impossible with current technology," Reed smiled. "Good thing we don't listen to everything aliens say." The ship's scanner showed the hyperspace distortion forming. 50 Vorn ships emerged, their weapons already charged. This fleet wasn't just destroyers. It included massive dreadnoughts with planet-killing capability. On the lead Vorn ship, Fleet Commander Gex watched the 3 human vessels with contempt. His predecessor had been demoted after the embarrassment at Centauri, and Gex had no intention of failing. "They're using some kind of stealth technology and electronic warfare," he told his officers. "But no stealth can hide from 50 ships firing in all directions. No electronic warfare can affect an entire fleet spread across this much space." He bared his teeth in what passed for a smile among the Vorn. "This time, we will not underestimate them. All ships, target the human vessels and fire at will." The space around the Centauri colony lit up as 50 Vorn ships opened fire. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes shot toward the 3 human ships. The Innovation, Reed's fingers flew across her control panel. "Activating deflection field in 3, 2, 1. The Innovation's hull began to glow with a faint blue light. As Vorn weapons fire approached, something strange happened. The energy beams curved away from the ship, missing it entirely. The torpedoes changed course at the last second, passing harmlessly by. "Gravitational manipulation field working perfectly," Reed announced. "They can't hit what they can't reach." The Defiant and Unity had activated similar systems. All 3 human ships stood untouched in the middle of the most intense barrage the Vorn could produce. On his ship, Gex stared in disbelief. "How is this possible? No defense system can deflect weapons at this range." "It's not a standard shield," his science officer responded, voice shaking. "They're bending space itself around their ships. The technology required for this it should be thousands of years beyond human capability." Reed's voice came through on the fleet communication channel. "Captain Davis requests permission to show the Vorn what real speed looks like." "Permission granted, Chief," Davis replied. "Just try not to break my ship." Reed grinned. "No promises." She activated the pulse drive, her own creation, based partly on the crashed alien technology and partly on theories that most physicists considered impossible. The Innovation shot forward at a speed that made it nearly invisible to the naked eye. It moved between Vorn ships so quickly they couldn't track it. With each pass, the human ship left behind small devices that attached to Vorn hulls. "What are those?" Gex demanded as one attached to his own ship. Before his officers could answer, the device activated. A pulse of energy shot through the ship's systems, temporarily freezing every electronic component. All across the Vorn fleet, ships started to drift, their systems disabled for precious minutes. Reed didn't stop there. As the Innovation danced between enemy vessels, she activated the ship's most secret weapon, the replicator. Based on technology that humans had kept hidden even from themselves, the replicator could restructure matter at the molecular level. Reed had modified it to affect ship systems. The innovation sent targeted energy pulses at 5 Vorn ships. Suddenly, those ships' weapons turned inward, firing on other Vorn vessels. "She's reprogramming their targeting systems on the fly," breathed Miller from the Defiant. "I didn't know she could do that." Meanwhile, Commander Wilson on the Unity had used the confusion to position his ship perfectly. The Unity broadcast a signal that the humans had designed based on their study of Vorn communication patterns. The signal contained code that spread through the Vorn fleet's network like a virus. One by one, Vorn ship engines shut down. Weapons systems went offline. Life support remained functional. The humans weren't trying to kill, only to disable. In less than an hour, the entire Vorn fleet floated helplessly in space. Reed returned to the Innovations bridge, her face streaked with grease but wearing a triumphant smile. "Not bad for a day's work," she said. Captain Davis looked at her with new respect. "The Vorn thought they knew what human technology was capable of. You just rewrote their understanding." Reed shook her head. "This isn't just about technology. It's about how humans use it." She gestured at the disabled Vorn fleet. "They build bigger ships with bigger weapons. We build smarter ships with adaptable systems." She looked out at the stars. "The galaxy thinks humanity is young. They don't understand that being young means we haven't settled into old ways of thinking. We see possibilities where they see limitations." As the 3 human ships regrouped, Reed sent a message to her counterparts on the other vessels. "Phase 2 complete. Ready for Phase 3. The true human strategy was unfolding exactly as planned. Commander Thomas Wilson sat quietly in his private quarters aboard the UES Unity. Unlike the other 2 ships in Earth's small fleet, the Unity didn't look impressive from the outside. It carried fewer weapons than the Defiant and lacked the experimental technology of the Innovation. But appearances could be deceiving. At 52, Wilson had spent most of his life studying other cultures. Before aliens came to Earth, he had been a professor of anthropology, specializing in how different human societies communicated. After first contact, he became Earth's foremost expert on alien psychology. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, we're receiving the signal from the Innovation," his communications officer reported. "Phase 2 is complete. The Vorn fleet has been neutralized." "Thank you," Wilson replied. "Prepare for Phase 3. It's time for me to go to work." While Captain Miller fought battles and Engineer Reed built impossible technology, Wilson's job was different. He fought with words, ideas, and information. The Unity's bridge was unlike the others in Earth's fleet. Instead of weapons controls, it was filled with advanced communication systems and data analysis terminals. The screens showed not enemy ships but information flows, communication patterns across the Vorn Empire. "The Vorn have already sent messages to their homeworld about their defeat," reported his second-in-command. "They're requesting even more ships." Wilson nodded. "And how is the Vorn public reacting?" "That's the interesting part," she replied. "There is no public reaction. The Vorn leadership is keeping these defeats secret from their own people." Wilson smiled slightly. "Just as we suspected. Begin the broadcast." For years, human intelligence had been gathering information about the Vorn Empire. They learned that despite its aggressive stance toward other species, the Vorn government faced problems at home. The military leadership lived in luxury while ordinary Vorn citizens struggled. Resources that could help everyone were used to build more warships. Wilson had studied these patterns and found something important. The Vorn Empire was not as united as it appeared. The Unity activated its most powerful system, a communication array that could send targeted messages across vast distances. It began broadcasting directly to Vorn colonies throughout their empire, bypassing official channels. "People of the Vorn Empire," Wilson's message began. It was translated perfectly into the Vorn language with subtle adjustments for regional dialects. "We are humans from Earth. Your leaders have told you we are weak, primitive creatures. They have not told you that we have defeated 2 of their fleets without a single casualty. The broadcast included images of the disabled Vorn ships. It continued, "Your leaders have not told you many things. They have not told you how much of your empire's wealth is kept by the ruling families. They have not told you about their failed wars, their secret agreements with pirates who raid your colonies, or the resources they have hidden from you." Wilson's team had prepared detailed evidence of corruption among Vorn leadership, evidence gathered through months of careful intelligence work. The broadcast shared it all directly with the Vorn public. "We do not wish to fight your people," Wilson's message concluded. "Our quarrel is with leaders who attack others to hide their failures at home. We send this message in the spirit of truth. What you do with this truth is your choice." On the Vorn homeworld, Supreme Leader Krax received urgent reports from across the Empire. Colonial governors reported public demonstrations. Military commanders reported questions from their troops. For the first time in generations, ordinary Vorn were questioning their leaders. "Find the source of these transmissions and destroy it," Krax ordered. "Send our entire reserve fleet to the Centauri system. Crush these humans completely." But the damage was already done. The Unity had broadcast not just to public channels, but directly to personal communication devices throughout the Empire. The information was spreading too fast to stop. Meanwhile, Wilson wasn't finished. As the Vorn prepared their largest fleet yet, over 200 ships, the Unity slipped away from the Centauri system. Using the same stealth technology as the UO, Defiant, it traveled undetected to the edge of Vorn space. "Our target is the Vorn colony on Keltar," Wilson told his crew. "It's their largest mining world, the source of materials for their warships." The Unity arrived at Keltar and sent a different message, this one just to the colony's workers. "The ships being built with your labor have been defeated by just 3 human vessels," the message said. "Your leaders are sending more ships, which will meet the same fate. How many resources will be wasted before they tell you the truth?" The workers of Keltar had long been unhappy with their conditions. The human message sparked what had been building for years. Within hours, the mining operations stopped. The workers demanded changes, better conditions, honest information, an end to endless war. Similar uprisings began on other Vorn worlds. Not violent rebellions, but work stoppages, questions, demands for truth. The Vorn Empire, built on conquest and control, faced something it had never prepared for, its own people thinking for themselves. On the Unity, Wilson watched the reports come in. "The Vorn Reserve Fleet has been delayed," his intelligence officer said. "Many of the ships are being held back to deal with the colonial situations." "And the rest?" Wilson asked. "Still coming. To Centauri. About 80 ships." Wilson nodded. "Inform Captain Miller and Engineer Reed. Phase 3 is complete. The Vorn Empire is fighting itself now. They'll send ships to fight us, but their heart isn't in it anymore." His second-in-command looked troubled. "Commander, some might say, what we've done, turning a species against its own government, is worse than ordinary warfare." Wilson considered this. "We didn't create the problems in the Vorn Empire. We just made them impossible to ignore." He looked at the screen showing reports from across Vorn space. Sometimes the strongest weapon isn't a gun or a bomb. It's the truth. As the Unity rejoined the other human ships at Centauri, Wilson prepared for the final confrontation. The Vorn were still coming, wounded, confused, but dangerous. "The real question," he told his crew, "is whether they've started to understand why we sent just 3 ships. I think they're beginning to see it isn't about the number of ships at all. Phase 4 would soon begin, and then the galaxy would truly understand the human strategy." The 3 human ships floated in formation near the Centauri mining colony. Before them, 80 Vorn warships emerged from hyperspace, the remains of the once proud reserve fleet, now reduced by the internal troubles spreading across the Vorn Empire. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Miller watched the enemy ships appear on his screen. Quite a reduction from the 200 they originally planned to send. "Commander Wilson's information campaign is working," said his tactical officer. Miller nodded. "It was always part of the plan. Now we finish this." The three captains connected through a secure channel. Miller's stern face, Reed's confident smile, and Wilson's thoughtful expression appeared on screens in all three ships. Final phase, Miller said simply. The Vorn fleet was led by Supreme Leader Krax himself. After 2 humiliating defeats and growing unrest at home, he had decided to take personal command. The humans have clever tricks, he told his commanders, but tricks fail when faced with overwhelming force. We will not be fooled again. He had studied the reports from previous battles. The human ships could hide from sensors. They could deflect weapons. They could move with impossible speed. They could hijack Vorn systems. But no ship could do all these things at once. Each human vessel had shown different capabilities. If he could separate them, he could defeat them. Divide their formation, Krax ordered. Force them to split up. The Vorn fleet deployed in 3 groups, each targeting 1 human ship. It was a solid strategy against normal enemies. But humans were not normal enemies. As the Vorn ships approached, something unexpected happened. The 3 human vessels did not flee or separate. Instead, they moved closer together. Their hulls began to glow with a blue-white light. On the Innovation, Engineer Reed's hands flew across her control panel. Initiating synchronization, she reported. Field generators at maximum. The blue glow connecting the 3 ships grew stronger. On the Unity, Commander Wilson monitored the energy flow. Communication links established. Broadcasting unified. Field code now. On the Defiant, Captain Miller gave the final command. Activate the Trinity Protocol. The light between the 3 ships flashed brilliantly. When it faded, something had changed. The 3 separate vessels were now surrounded by a single energy field, connecting them as one unified system. In the history of galactic warfare, no one had ever seen anything like it. On his flagship, Krax stared in confusion. What is this? What are they doing? His science officer's voice shook as he replied. The 3 ships are functioning as one. They're sharing power, sharing systems. It should be impossible. The linked human ships began to move with perfect coordination. When the Vorn fired weapons, the Unity's communication systems detected the energy buildup and instantly shared this data with the Defiant, whose tactical systems calculated the perfect evasive maneuver, which the Innovation's engines executed at impossible speed. When the Defiant's stealth system activated, it now extended to all 3 ships. When the Innovation's system-disrupting technology fired, it was guided by the Unity's perfect understanding of Vorn ship design. The 3 human ships moved like a single organism with 3 bodies, each specialized, but now sharing all their strengths and none of their individual weaknesses. This is the true power of humanity, Miller transmitted to the Vorn fleet. Not our technology, not our tactics, not our information warfare. It's our ability to work together, to combine our strengths, to become more than the sum of our parts. The linked human ships moved through the Vorn fleet like ghosts, disabling ship after ship without destroying them. Some Vorn captains, already doubtful after hearing Wilson's broadcasts, surrendered without fighting. Others fought fiercely but could not hit what they could not track. Supreme Leader Krax watched his fleet fall apart around him. For the first time in his life, he felt fear. Retreat, he ordered. All ships, return to... His words were cut short as his ship's engines shut down. On his main screen, the 3 human captains appeared. Supreme Leader Krax, said Wilson, your ship is disabled. Your fleet is defeated. Your empire is in turmoil because your people have learned the truth about your rule. This war is over, said Miller. But what happens next is your choice, added Reed. Wilson continued, we have broadcast this battle to every world in your empire. Everyone has seen how 80 of your ships failed against our 3. They have also seen that we disabled your vessels without destroying them. We could have killed thousands of your people today. We chose not to. Why? Krax demanded. Why? Show mercy? Because this was never about destruction, Miller replied. This was about sending a message, not just to you, but to the entire galaxy. The human captains explained their terms. The Vorn would withdraw all claims to the Centauri system. They would begin reforms in their empire, giving more voice to their colonies and ordinary citizens. In exchange, humans would share some of their technological advances. Not weapons, but medical and energy technologies that could improve life throughout Vorn space. And if I refuse? Krax asked. Then we leave, Wilson said simply. We return to Earth. And your people who have seen what just 3 of our ships can do will ask why you choose pride over progress. 2 days later, in the United Galactic Council chamber, representatives from hundreds of worlds watched as Supreme Leader Krax signed a peace treaty with President Bell of Earth. Admiral Drek approached the human president afterward. I must ask, he said. Why did you send just 3 ships? Your world must have more. Was it a test of some kind? President Bell smiled. 3 was all we needed. 1 for tactics, 1 for technology, 1 for truth. If we had sent more, the message would have been about our strength. We wanted the message to be about our approach. She looked around at the alien representatives, many of whom were now viewing humans with new respect, and some with new concern. We wanted the galaxy to understand that humans don't think like other species. We don't measure power by the size of our fleets or the number of our weapons. We measure it by how we use what we have. As news of the human victory spread across the galaxy, many worlds began to reconsider their view of the newcomers to galactic society. The species that could defeat an empire with just 3 ships was not one to underestimate. And throughout the stars, a new saying began to spread. Beware the species that sends just 3 ships to war. They're not showing you their weakness. They're showing you how little of their strength they need.